All right, today's project is for the iconic Red Rocks Amphitheatre. I had the opportunity to design and build the dining tables for the Visitor Center restaurant. So in this video, I'm going to tell you a little bit about how I went about bidding the project and designing the project, and of course, how I built the project. All right, so before we start talking about the acquisition and design of the project, let's start building some stuff here. All right, so to build tables for an entire restaurant, I basically bought an entire bunk of 8/4 walnut. And this was kind of one of those realizations that I realized that I can't pay as much attention to these tables as I could if I was building a table for Mrs. Jones. For Mrs. Jones' table, I typically sort through the entire bunk to pick out the best 5 boards out of that entire bunk of lumber. But in this situation, I have to build a whole bunch of tables out of this whole bunk of lumber, so I can't pick the best 5 boards and then at the very end have the ugliest 5 boards and have one table super ugly. So basically, as I sorted the boards, I tried to put some light colors, like some of the lighter colored boards together and some of the dark colored boards together, and swap some boards in and out just so that way I didn't have an ugly table at the end. And still, even at the end, I ended up going back to buy a couple more pieces of lumber because I just wasn't satisfied with that last table. The Red Rocks Amphitheatre is owned by Denver County, so this was a public works project, so I had to bid on it as a public works project, which is a little bit different than how I normally like to do things. I usually like to sit down and talk to my client about what their expectations are and come up with a budget, and then we have a conversation about what design elements can fit within their budget. In this, I just had to know what my design was and pitch my design and hope my design was competitively priced with the other bidders, and that my design was cooler than the other bidders. All right, so for the design of the metal bases, I basically studied how restaurant tables were built. So a lot of restaurant tables are just a single round pole that holds up the top on some kind of round base, or they're built from square tubing. And lots of tables were built from square tubing, and I think that's because square tubing is a lot easier to weld than round tubing, so your average person is going to design what is easy for them. So average people make average things, and my brand is to try to be above average. So I decided to design my tables out of round tubing. So yes, that's going to be harder to build and weld up, but I think that extra effort is going to set my design apart from other people's, and I believe that is one of the things that helped win the bid. All right, so I designed 2 styles of tables. The square table goes down the center of the dining room, and then the rectangle tables go down the sides. In the bid documents, there were 2 main requirements I had to meet when designing the tables. One, all the tables had to be ADA compliant, and the tables that were going to go down the wall along with the booths had to work well with the booths. You had to have easy access in and out of the booth. And so when I created my bid, I made sure that I created drawings and included those drawings in my bid, demonstrating that I understood those requirements and that my tables met the requirements. I think that's really important when doing custom work. Pretty much every client that wants custom work has a thing that's important to them, and you want to make sure you demonstrate that thing that's important to them in your bid so that way they know that you were paying attention. I use SketchUp to create all of my bid documents, so if you want to learn how to make awesome looking bid documents as well, I teach a course on how to use SketchUp and layout, so I will leave a link to that in the description below. All right, so back to the build. Here I am building a jig to hold the legs so I can drill some holes. Now these holes will accept those little crossbars in them, and they all need to be in a perfect line so I can just slide the crossbars in there and not have to worry about welding each bar. All right, so I got my workpiece trapped in my fixture table here, and then I got 2 spacers that are magnetic, and then I'll just push this guy up here and tack those guys in and work my way down. And then once I'm done, that will give something for this guy to register against. Super critical spacing. All right, so now to keep the legs from rotating the jig while drilling the holes, my buddy Greg from Greg's Garage gave me the idea to tack weld a bar across the legs on each side, and that would prevent it from rolling, and I could just slide the leg down to the next position each time I need it. Now, if you want to know more about Greg, check out Greg's Garage, but we also do a podcast together called The Maker's Quest. I'll leave a link somewhere to that if you want to check out our podcast. All right, I clamped a stop down to my jig so that way each hole setup will land up in the same spot, and I'll drill all the legs and then move the jig to the next hole and then keep going. All right, and then to drill all the holes, I ended up using a step bit. A standard drill bit had too much flex in it, so trying to get it started on a round corner or on a round curve, it would flex to one side or the other of the pipe. So the step bit stayed rigid enough to allow me to drill a perfect hole. Yeah, and so including a few of the legs that I screwed up, this turned out to be a little over 320 holes of this style here. So it was a long couple of days drilling holes, just holes after holes. So basically, to keep my sanity intact, I put on some good podcasts like The Maker's Quest and the like, and some good tunes in the earbuds, and just buckled down and got it done. All right, and then those decorative crossbars in the leg assembly are made up of 1/2-inch rods, so I think I had 150, 160 of those parts to cut out as well. So there's a lot of monotonous fabrication in this project. All right, so here is my fixture table set up for a little production run on welding the caps on our feet. So these guys go in here like this. Everything is trapped in here. It's not going anywhere. This hole is for a foot, adjustable foot that'll go in there later. But we have 1/8-inch material. So I have an 1/8-inch fireball tool shim. Then I have cut some caps material that'll go on here like this. This magnet just holds it in place so I can tack on either side. And then I'll weld this up on this side and weld it up on the bottom. Pull it out. Flip it around, do the same thing on this side. And then once the cap is welded on, I have a couple more posts set up here. So I can just drop this in here and it's clamped in place, held in place, so I can hit it with a grinder just to clean up my weld. And then after that's done, we'll go to the sandblast cabinet just to clean up, ready for a patina to go on there. So let's do this. So now the last thing to do on this before assembly is to tap the holes for the threaded feet to go into. And this is one of those things where I kind of got it out of the order of operations. If I would have broke a tap off in one of these and that tap would have been trapped inside of there, that would kind of sucked. So I probably should have tapped the holes before I welded the cap on. But I got lucky and no taps were broken, even though I tapped a whole bunch of holes. I think there's like 22 holes. All right, so the threads on the feet were a little bit too long, so to cut them to their proper length, I made a jig, and it's basically a block of wood with a hole in it. That way I could just slide the foot in there and cut it off at the right length. I saw how to weld up 22 of these assemblies for this project, and this fixture table was invaluable in helping me set it up very quickly and accurately, making sure each one was the same. I would have taken twice as long, maybe 4 times as long, to weld all these parts up and get these assemblies built without it. The table itself is not from Fireball Tools, but I bought all the accessories from Fireball Tools, and I watch his YouTube channel. And on his YouTube channel, whenever he uses his fixture table or is promoting his fixture table, there are all kinds of people in the comments saying that a true craftsman or a professional welder doesn't need a fixture table. And I really think that when people say things like that, they're really just trying to justify to themselves and to the world why they don't want to spend the money on tools that will make them a better craftsman. I think a true craftsman is someone that is always looking at bettering their end result product, and that is through acquiring better tools and acquiring better skills. And you acquire better tools by acquiring better skills to make more money. So something that you will continue to do naturally as you become a better craftsman. And my process was no different here. I'm primarily a woodworker. I spend most of my time woodworking, so welding is not something I am super proficient at. So as I welded up all these parts, I played it as like a little game to see that if each time I created a weld on these pipes, that each weld was better than the last one before it. So by the end of this project, rounding all that weld tube, I was a much better welder than I had started out as. All right, so moving on to the square tables, I needed to create that grid work around the apron of the table. All right, to do this, I repurposed my jig from before so I could drill into the 1/2-inch round bar. So I'm drilling a 1/4-inch hole halfway through, and this will accept the 1/4-inch dowel rods. All right, so I reset up the fixture table to hold the apron parts, and basically I am tapping in the 1/4-inch dowels into the 1/4-inch holes, and then I will sandwich the 2 rails with all those dowels in there between the fixture pegs, and then tack weld them from behind. That way my welds won't show on the front. All right, and then those apron assemblies got tack welded into holes that I had drilled into the legs. And then what I am tack welding on now is some little clips that I made to slide some wood in there to be a backdrop. Throughout the halls of the Red Rocks Visitors Center, there are all kinds of pieces of artwork that are made from aged copper that has a really beautiful patina on that. So for these metal bases, I'm going to copper plate them and then age that copper to a dark brown. So that way it ties into the rest of the decor of the visitor center, and also that dark aging will go great with the walnut tabletops. All right, so it's kind of bright and orange pinky-ish color right now, but as the chemical reaction continues, it'll start to change and develop this really rich dark brown patina. All right, so now that the patina process is done, I milled down some walnut to slide in those little clips that I had made earlier to back the apron. And then I fabricated a couple more clips to screw into the back of the apron that will also allow me to attach the walnut tops. All right, and there we go, the completed tables. Thanks for watching.